Lincoln Borough Board of Education planning session. On the roll call, please.
Mr. Abbott,
Present.
Mr. Bratton,
Present.
Mr. Johnson, Mr. Millis.
Pledge allegiance, would you join me?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, justice for all.
Consider approval of agenda. Are there any changes to be made? Seeing none, then is there a motion to approve? So moved. Thank you.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
and Mr. Millis.
Tonight, we've got a few things to talk about. Obviously, we're gonna start off with facilities. There's personnel and start discussing with the board now, as we look at some changes within the district and enrollment as well. So Travis and I will have a few things to talk about there and some things to consider given this that's gone on for the last couple months to select a construction management firm. And we received qualifications. We narrowed it down to 3 firms. We asked for proposals. We did interviews with them. We have an evaluation committee that consisted of a couple board members, Travis, myself, John, our maintenance supervisor, and we went through the interview process. We used Tony as an advisory role only in that process. But after going through all that with 3 different firms, we have determined that Summit Construction is the best value firm for our K-5 elementary school project and tennis court project. And we are working on preparing a CMR agreement with Summit, as we had a couple board members present. During the proposals, I asked that tied up with work this month, and something popped up, so he could not be here, so I apologize. But Mr. Bratton down at the far end and Ms. Parker right here are obviously a couple other board members, and I wanted them to become familiar with the team that we'll have in place, and really get into some of the services in our project and the experience that you have and the things that you've learned over the years in the construction management area, I guess, and how we can benefit from that, and your experience from that. So I want to introduce Andy Rogers, the senior project, and Adam Hewer, who is also a lead project manager, and then Tim Baden is the actual construction superintendent that will oversee, be on site every single day with us. But we've also, who is the vice president of Summit Construction. He was unable to be here tonight, but he's excited to be, Travis and I are working with our attorney, Sylvia Gillis, to bring an agreement that we would like the board to approve at our October board meeting, and then it will be signed and be involved in the pre-construction and the design process and giving estimates on each phase. So we stay when we get to what we think is the end of the design. So that's part of that CMR process. But turn it over to Ben and ask questions, things that you may be concerned about, or community members may be concerned about. And I'm sure they'll do a good job covering just about everything as well. But feel free to ask Andy and Adam and Tim.
Why don't you explain CMR first?
So obviously, I think some of you may have been involved in the old delivery model of you do what's called a multiple prime contract, where the district and the state hire directly contract with them, and then the construction manager actually just manages, called agency construction manager, where they just manage those contracts, but there's no contractual risk for the construction manager. Where it really changed, I think in multiple ways, but with the construction manager at-risk delivery model, we are now selected very early on in the design. We walk through constructability reviews, partner with the district, sometimes the OFCC if they're involved, but also the architect, to where then once we get to a guaranteed maximum price, and once we all agree upon that, then we actually manage and hire all the subcontractors directly. One thing I want to make sure I don't leave out is the pre-qualification process. That to me is one of the biggest parts of this, and what I think is so it's really one point of contact.
It really is a lot better way of doing it.
I've done both. I guess just to kick off on behalf of all of us at Summit, but thank you down. As Sean said, you can interact with us throughout this, ask us questions, stop us, throw us off, that's fine. One thing I did want to touch on is, we've been in Fairfield County now for over 5 years, working with we understand the market here really well. I think that's a plus for everybody, worked with over and over. So we're really excited about that. We also understand Fairfield County really well, what's involved with that, working with them on utilities, those kind of things. Tim will be working closely with them. So for as long as we have built similar buildings to this, Thomas Ewing, which Tim is actually the superintendent on now, which is ahead of schedule, is a similar sized building to the K-5. It's a middle school. We understand, although every district is different, we do understand how, the core values of Tony and how he designs. So I think it's set up really well for that. So a couple other things that I, we hit on in the interview, kind of what's important to us. Our ability to build lasting relationships is huge for us. We're upfront about it, and we have to exceed your expectations on every job. We cannot have a job go south or because we're not big enough to be able to bounce back from that. So we understand who we are. We have to meet or exceed expectations on every job. We have to partner with the architects that we work with. And that is the truth, and I'll say it over and over again. Tony Shore and his team and his consultants, we just have such a great relationship with them, us working together. And it truly is, we know that what he's telling us is true, and we'll be working with him as well. Communication is important with us, being here tonight, being at any board meeting you need us to be at, being at every community meeting that you need us to be at. Well, I say it all the time, it's true a lot. Anybody can just build a building, but there's more to it. It's us communicating with the community. So that's important to us as well. I just wanted to talk a little bit about estimating. And I know we hit on it a little bit covering the delivery model and how it's different, but at each phase of design, schematic design, design development, Tony is actually aligning the estimate. Now what that means is, okay, we need to decide on the format we're gonna look at this in. So we sit down and go, okay, here's how we see it, here's how Tony and his team see it, let's come to an agreement on, okay, this is actually how you align it. So that way we're looking at the same estimate, because we can pinpoint exactly where they are. Because if you see, like, if we do a huge breakdown and say, okay, concrete has X amount of line items and he has a lump sum number, well, how do we know where we differ and what the disagreement is? So we do that really well with Shore, and we'll just continue that track. But I think that's a very important aspect of estimating. It's making sure those are aligned with the estimate. We do reconcile at the end of each phase before we submit the estimate to you. That means we're going to Tony's office, we're sitting down, we're reviewing every line item in the estimate. Where do we agree, where do we disagree? Look at the local market, in the bigger market, and, okay, hey, Tony, did you account for this and the steel tariff and all that? And that's what we do. It's a collaborative process that we go back and forth with on to make sure that we're all seeing the same thing, so that when we submit our estimates, there's not like, okay, Summit's over here and we can't, you don't know who to believe. I mean, that's not going to happen because of what we're doing, the checks and balances along the way.
Of course, it still could be a problem if you try to get it from China, right?
Yes.
So, I think seriously.
Yep. I think a value added, and we're pretty proud of this. I think it's unique. I hope it continues to be unique as our competitors continue to see it. Around 40 to 50. Why does that benefit you? Well, it eliminates markup. Has no value in brick building. Well, there's a cavity insulation that goes on the wall. It's actually a spray insulation. Well, if we just throw that and say the mason, you pick up that cavity insulation. Well, all that mason's going to do is do that. So then they're just going to mark it up, and then mark it up, and then it comes back. So that 15 to 10 markup has no value to the building. You get nothing out of it. What we do is actually say, okay, so that way they're giving us their price, and then there's no markup going to the masonry contractor, then back to us, then. So I think that we do that with a lot of different packages, but I think that hopefully that's an example that everybody can understand. But it's something that we do not only to benefit you so you can get the most out of your building, but we also want to directly contract with as many contractors as possible, because you can bet that they listen.
And that's all open book.
All open book.
So
yes.
Even though they are going out and getting those services and we're not holding those contracts doing that, it's still public record because it's a public project.
Yes.
So anybody could do a records request for any.
We set, the CMR delivery model sets up to where we don't always have to take a little bit, but we're pre-qualifying and everybody's a good contractor, then why would we? Because that has value.
And just something I guess to add to that is, we get the bids, and we have a checklist, so we go through their bids to make sure that everybody's on an equal point. You know what I mean? If some guy comes in the low balls, a bid pack. We want
Tony Fixer work for.
Yeah, we'll bring actually Shore in to our scope review meetings.
I mean, when these subcontractors are working, will you be evaluating them? Okay.
Every day.
Well,
So,
Why don't we break out mechanical insulation? Let's do that. Because, then we can hire, because although we do check second and third tier subcontractors, there's certain ones that we just want to work with. Well, when we start talking about, like, that's a slippery slope, because that can be dangerous. So, we may not understand the actual duct size, the pipe size. So you got to know your place a little bit too, and add value to the project versus going a little too far with it. So there's always going to be some second and third tier slopes, but temperature controls is a great one. A lot of people, they just decide, okay, we'll throw that in the mechanical contractors. I know insulation is always a big one for me, but.
And do you use, or is that
Yes.
really vetted through your hiring of the bid?
Mechanical contractor, when we pre-qualify them, and when we are gonna solicit bids from them, we say, okay, what are you looking at for insulation?
flex. Our big thing was schedule. I can hit on the extended warranty. We provide an additional 6-month warranty, so I guess the layman's, we'll give you 18 or 19 months, whatever it is. So when you guys occupy the building in August, that's when your year warranty starts. So it's something we do. Hopefully that's unique as well, but just
So on your warranty, when did you build, when were you finished with the ones in Lincoln, Griffin County, fix or attend anything from that warranty?
Nothing out of the ordinary, no. Which, no, and that, the thing with us, and it's honest, and I think Jerry and Steve could attest to it, we're never really gone. We'll always help you. We take pride in that, if you need us, we'll be there. And I think that's one, we're not looking at hours, looking at this. Adam or I or Tim have to drive down 2 years from now, figure out what something.
I think, if I could add anything, I think that's for one area where when we check references and call Southwest City, Chillicothe, the Lancaster City Schools, talk to multiple people in those districts, the fact that their team is committed to us, and not being pulled a million different places, they're a little bit smaller company, but they do have experience, and they build multiple schools and work with different firms. And I think that is really a testament to Superior. And maybe they haven't always liked it. They've had a schedule to get back into a project 18 months and ground in November. Adam and Tim and this team and Andy felt like, if they could bump that up a month and a half, and they can stay ahead on the Thomas Ewing project, because their team is going to go for Thomas Ewing right up here in November of 2019. They think that they can actually start, a little bit earlier and get some of those bearing walls, or move on to other parts and come back and do those other walls outside of the winter time. So there's a possibility the project could overall end up, a month or a couple months ahead of schedule. And we made some comments about, mid-year moves and things that we would have to talk about. But, I just wanted to kind of add that in terms of their warranties and their follow-through on things, that's been one of the things. that the other districts have said has been excellent.
I think, I mean, that's good to hear, because I think something that you know,
Well-
6 months later, you wanna, this needs to be tweaked,
Sure.
or it needs to be adjusted.
It's a pride thing for
Yeah.
us. I mean, it really is. I
In
mean,
references,
we take a
like you
lot of
said,
pride in what
you
we
want
do.
that next job, you want that next district, someday somebody's gonna call myself, or maybe a board member here, or Travis, and say, what was your experience like next job down there?
And I did that at an OSBA thing, I think I told you that.
Yeah.
An OSBA thing, there were 2 Lancaster board members on, but, so what's been your experience with Tony Shore and with Summit Construction? That's before we had the interview now. I don't know where they didn't have.
Nice to hear.
Yeah, I always wondered, it always bothered me, you know, even, when I was, agency construction manager, why would you ever do a good job for 95% of the way? And then make everybody mad the last 5%? Why would you do, well, that's ridiculous, so.
That happens, we've seen it.
Well,
Right.
we take a different philosophy. On schedule?
And it's like Elford wasn't gonna have one of their main people there for about 6 months, because they had some other project going, and then Russilli, you know, we're gonna be their #1 project. Not really. We're gonna be number 3.
On the schedule, we didn't talk about the early site package, but, Mr. Mancini?
Yes.
Is that his name? He would be the early site superintendent, he's not here tonight. The early site package would still be targeted in July.
Correct.
Maybe even June if they can get to it while the construction documents are being finalized. But in terms of prepping the site, getting the pad ready to get the walls going and footers, in, you know, they're still looking at next July to get started on that. So,
Yeah, believe me, we'll be pushing Tony hard for that, quicker than that.
And it'll make a really nice site, and we'll put all the stone base down for the parking lot, so it won't be
that's,
a muddy mess. to drive around.
This is a very good question. Yeah. I'm doing the Fairfield County. We've done all the soil tests.
we've had soil borings, explorers provided today about that. Those borings will probably be in a couple months from now.
Okay.
Once we get through the programming phase and figure out the layout of the building and where we want it to go, so, yeah, that'll be done in the next couple of months.
So what's been the issue that you don't want to say?
Personal
Oh,
issue.
personal, okay. I thought maybe it was somehow related to your.
My project.
Your project.
Smaller than this.
I'm an OSHA instructor, and I've been an OSHA instructor for years, really my bread and butter, and I'm really concerned about that at times. So before we start the site, we're gonna put in a fence and make sure the site is secure and everything before you even get here, or before we even move into it. And that not only protects everything we've got there, and also, I really just wanna say that I'm gonna give you, I'm real adamant on the Thomas Ewing site. I mean, I'm out there every day, you know, with the subcontractors, and I'm really the guts of Summit down there where it's to you, and give you the best product I possibly can.
And you don't live far away.
And I live in Lancaster.
So there's an issue on the weekends, Travis probably knows it.
Tim will be here. Just another, I hope this is a value added for, I think, a lot of people, including us, is our student learning program. We developed this a few years ago, for multiple reasons. Number one, I think it's our obligation to give back, to communities that we live in, or that we work in. But also understanding, if you start looking around on the job site, seeing the workforce out there.
They tell me about it all the time.
We've not.
What can you do? Your hair's white, you're.
It is, and it started to become a concern, but, so we said, well, what can we do? You know, and I remember talking about it with some people and saying, you know, we should do this, we should do, and do it. With Lancaster City Schools with the kids, October 19th, to kick that off. But really what it entails is getting the students involved in the construction of the district that they live in. So how do we do that? You know, first thing we want to do soon is meet with the curriculum director to better understand how we can be of service to the students here. We want to room discussions or full student body presentations, really outline what we do, why we do it. That's what, as we evolved, I started realizing, like, you know, we're the conduit for some of the students that may want to get involved in the trades after they graduate high school. You know, we hire the trade, so why aren't we setting up to have our trade these meetings as well? so that maybe and actually Greg Davis with Claypool Electric is one I've been working on, the need for all together and kind of reach the local students of Lancaster, Bloom Carroll, and other districts. So it's really a win-win. I think it's a good thing. We should do it to give back, but also it solves the problem because we won't be able to manage construction if.
I tell you what, I'm really excited about those opportunities once we can start the project. And, you know, we have a lot of kids interested in math and science and Cincinnati for engineering. And to be able to move those kids up on a bus that might have some kind of interest and take them out and not have to supervise them when Tim's got them on in, I think that would be great. We would be with
I love it.
We would be
We'll
with
get you
them.
some of
We
those
could
calls,
definitely
like I got with my dog.
I've got 4 kids, so I can
But
tell
no,
you.
to drive around
Keep you
there
right
and
on.
walk through the building and see the engineering pieces, whether it's mechanical or electrical or, you know, whatever it might be, and even just the skilled trades. I mean, I think that those will be, I really liked hearing that during the proposal and presentation. I think that.
We let them walk the site. We actually bring down Lou Serraldo, who's the founder of Summit, who's actually a professor at Akron University, and he loves it. And so we kind of all work together, but Lou is really good at walking into a room and saying, okay, and he'll ask questions to the students and say, okay, you know, what's going on here? What did you see before that you don't see here? And why do you see it? And he does a very good job of explaining what's going on. So I think it gets kids excited to kind of be able to go out and say, okay, I was there, I saw that, but kind of gain their interest maybe in either construction management, engineering, architecture, or even the trades. And then also one thing we will do, and we did it at Chillicothe for one student who was really excited to work with us, is we offer internships for those students as well. So we had a 17-year-old work with us also on Chillicothe. We're open to that, but I also, you know, really where kind of the light bulb went off is it's the tractor fault. So they're excited to do that as well. And we'll, hopefully be able to give you the best project that we possibly can.
Tim, could you hit on, just, you know, explain to the board, we've had a few neighbors that have been very involved in the process from the minute we rezoned the property. How do you maintain, safety at the entrance, cleanliness of the road and things? What are things that Summit will do?
What we'll do, actually, to keep cleanliness, for the road, one of our calls, the roadway. If not, then, we do one thing.
One thing, we do not rely on our subcontractors to do that work. We actually have our Bobcat out there because that's the problem. You know, you're like, oh, hey, you got to call this person to have them out sweep the road. That's a critical act. Believe me, I've been doing this long enough to know that.
Make sure that is maintained.
Remind me, did you have a wash?
Yeah, I was on about the two.
The
We do
for
have a
the
wash
tires?
station.
Yeah.
Yeah, right at the main entrance, there'll be a wash station.
Since your site is so short,
Right.
usually if you got a long site with a lot of gravel, then it's not a problem.
I drove by Ewing a couple days ago, in the Sherman site. You guys have done the early site work over at Sherman. We're starting to.
Yeah.
The roads look good. You know,
Yeah, we maintain
keeping the community happy, the few neighbors we have out there will be important. That's a promise I've kind of made to them that.
And that was a big emphasis on us on the Thomas Ewing site, was to maintain the road.
And we do try, and Tim, if you wanna know something, come out and ask us. I'll tell you what's going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and, you know, I invite people out, please come out.
That's what we want to eliminate is you getting the calls. You know, we want a community meeting. If you have any questions, here's who to contact, and it's going to be us. But, you know, with Tim being the main point of contact, so if somebody comes out and sees dirt on the road and they're not happy about it, call Tim, and we'll take care of it.
There are cell phone numbers, they're not always.
One guy in the office, that's who we do.
Is, have any questions? I think this is Chillicothe,
Correct.
Southwest Cities Scores. I just took some tours of the, committee, several members took a couple tours of Mount Pleasant and Medill and helped to give us some ideas. And as we're talking about the programming and the spaces and how much space, like, and again, they build it, they don't design it, but, you know, they had some limitations, even in Chillicothe on a very restricted site. They didn't have a lot of room to do those projects, and we're gonna have plenty of room. I've talked to them about, you know, one thing that's important for our FFA program to be able to continue that during determine what the perimeter will be and how much will eventually become grass space or green space and how much we'll have. You want to continue to do those things, and they said it shouldn't be an issue out there, especially with 58 acres. So guys for coming in. You know, if Stacy and Matt have any questions, I know Mark and Joe have asked a lot of questions in the interview process, but feel free to ask them. And if think Jason, I emailed Jason today about somebody possibly coming to the, community forum on September 26th in the middle school auditorium.
We'll be there.
Tony and Mike Dingledine will be presenting most of the time, and myself. But, you know, if one of you could be there, we could have 2 people, we could have none, we could have 30.
Yeah.
Somebody, they could become familiar with some construction. So.
Yep, we'll be here.
That way at least we have 3 people there, you 2. I hope so.
But, you know, our cell phones, our cards, emails.
And I'll get you guys cards, I'm sorry, I didn't bring, they pulled me off the job.
Any questions?
It's just why it's our fault.
Everything's there.
Thank you.
Well,
thank you. Thank you again.
Feel free to pack up and
Appreciate it.
get home, okay? The next item, Travis kind of brought to my attention this summer, last spring, in regards to an LED lighting project. And really ours is just lighting. I mean, there's a lot of energy efficiency, conservators, but for us right now, we're kind of just concentrating, because we're building a new elementary school, we're kind of concentrating on how can we potentially save money in our 5-year forecast or over a 10-year, simply, we have a lot of different areas to talk about, but I think in your packet, you kind of gave us, that will include in the wish list item in the spring. So the high school gym, the middle school gym, and the parking lot lights, I'm gonna let Travis kind of take over from there.
Yeah, Sean mentioned, we started to look at this even bulbs, the fluorescent bulbs that you always see kind of flickering to the LED lights. The biggest thing is the capital investment up front. Once you make that, then everything else pays itself back based upon usage. Once the levy passed, we really kind of focused on a couple of areas, to be honest with you. Like Sean mentioned, the high school and middle school gym you approved on the wish list. So I'll start with that just to kind of summarize the, we're kind of looking at, I think it's 5 or 6, my computer's running pretty slow tonight, of the electronic packet. It says Bloom Carroll Lighting Projects at the top if you have a hard copy. Both of those gymnasiums, which, you know, have $50, you see the projected annual utility savings. Both gyms are used a lot, so the utility savings were about the same. South Central Power,
I thought it
yeah.
was different. Wasn't sure why, but.
Yeah, certainly able to recoup our cost very quickly. We thought that was going to be all that we were going to do. It came to our attention from Mr. Pugh, our maintenance supervisor, that we had 15 parking lot lights that were out. And we started to look at the cost of just replacing them and renting a bucket truck and the time and the effort. And we just thought, you know what, it's going to be a cap expense up front. And that's that third line, the parking lot lights. But we think it's worthwhile to do it. Increased a little bit. This will take care of every external light on this campus to replace what is currently out there with LED. The rebate's approximate. I haven't gotten a final on that, but the projected annual utility savings, you can see, not quite the payback of the gymnasium within that 2-year time period. So they're going to start replacing those pretty soon during sign that.
So we're looking at also putting LED, of course, at the new building.
Well, yeah, part of the LEED certification, I believe, with OFCC now is in the silver. I don't think we're going to qualify for gold, but the silver, I believe there are still some T8 bulbs used, but if we can get LED, you know, as an example of how much we can save, just a matter of a year and a half, or you know, even 2, you know, go ahead and invest in some of those things. We also talked about, as this year kind of evolves and we look school year and cost and expenditures and revenue, you know, if there are some things that we're building right here that we're going to have for a very long time, over to all LED, you know, we can potentially save, and these are estimates, $17,000 a year. It might cost around $40,000 to do this building, but if we can save $17,000 a year on this building alone, you know, we've worked with different energy conservation companies, 3 different ones that we've looked at that have made proposals, looking at the middle school interior and exterior lighting, the high school part that is staying, the first floor, cafeteria, band room. We've looked at the maintenance building that is on a separate meter up there in the student parking lot and lots. So we've looked at several different areas, and to be able to potentially recoup, you know, maybe $17,000 on this building alone is switching. I think if there's any money for us to do that, that's something that we need to really consider next spring as we look at our capital outlay?
Within this building, we've already done the auditorium. The auditorium is completely LED. And those canister lights you see out there, they burned out real quick once we moved into the building for whatever reason. And just to get, I mean, obviously just to get up there and get a lift, I mean, so we went ahead and did those as well. They do recommend that you don't phase in the classrooms. Or some students, I did include some literature in the packet that if you go non-LED to an LED classroom, it does cause some issues sometimes with the headaches and stuff. That's something that we wanted to avoid. So if and when we get to the point where we're going to do the middle school classrooms, we'd want to do them all at once. No, yeah.
One thing that the payback is not taken into account, which I'm sure you know, Travis, is the 15 or 17 pool lights that are out. I mean, you're
Right.
looking at $400 or $500 per pool repairment, I mean, labor and materials.
Yep.
So really the return on investment's a lot quicker.
Even quicker, yep, absolutely.
The LED lamps typically last around 50,000 hours versus the HID, which is 3,000 to 4,000 hours.
Mhm.
It's really a win-win.
I guess what we're saying is, don't be surprised if, as we continue through the year and we start looking at next spring, if we have any money available, this might be something that we might continue to bring in. Absolutely. To be able to put that money back into our operating costs, you know, it makes sense, long term. So we just wanted to update, you know, the board on that issue. Okay. Are there any questions about that?
Do it all.
Do it all. All right. Just moving on from facilities into section 2 with personnel. Again, some things that I just want to keep the board maybe stands with.
We want the overpay, we want.
What's that? You know, it's section 2, district enrollment report. I'm gonna let Travis hit on that real quick, and then I'm gonna give you my thoughts on it. This is an updated enrollment report. It seems to have fluctuated from one day to the next, but we're back. We're right back today. We had dropped to 167, but Travis, I don't know if you want to cover this.
Yeah, this is the same form that you find in your board packet every month. We really try to look at, obviously, K through 4 at the top. You see we've got 6 sections in all the grades except for 3rd. Obviously, our student-to-teacher ratio, and Sean's going to hit on that, is getting up to those uncomfortable zone. We've got the open enrollment and the resident students at the bottom. Far right, 18, 19 again, this is since then. Ironically, when we projected back in the spring, we projected 2,047. The issue is we had the high school at around 600, and you can see it's down to 545 due to a little bit of an increase in our JVS population. We had the sophomores more than what they did, and we were only at 151 kindergartners in our projection, 68. So while overall we're where we needed to be estimate-wise, you can see how that difference in the grade and where those kids came in really affects us. So,
Sure, understand. Does that include the 5 open enrollment?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, but it does not include
So you've got
the 20 joint vocational.
Exactly. If you follow it over, you've got 5 open enrollment, you've got 94 resident, and then you've got 99 in seats. You see what I mean? The 94 is right in the middle. That's our resident student. So you've got, if you look, open enrollment, okay.
I was up at the top.
And the reason we want to talk about this now is because we get into a tough situation where I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. I think Travis is too with our enrollment. We were hoping to maybe get by until that new building is done, because some things that we have to consider when and if we add in the elementary, it's an addition of a modular classroom. And we cannot add a modular classroom like that. It's not like we have empty classrooms where we can just say, well, let's hire a teacher and 2 weeks later have a teacher ready to go. We have a lot of things to consider when we bring in modular classrooms. There's a permitting process, there's an installation process. We need to 100 quarter in to getting the drawings. You still have to have an architect, you have to have inspections done, it has to be installed, you have to put ramps in, make connections. Do you put in restrooms, do you not put in restrooms? If you're putting modulars in for K to 2 kids, are you really gonna have them walk outside or hire somebody to walk back and forth every time a little kid has to go to the restroom? So you have utility costs, the tear down eventually of the modular. What it really comes down to is, you know, I went out and kind of got some prices and ballpark figures, but per year, per teach classroom, a modular classroom, and then you have the cost of the teacher as well. You know, as what happened with our enrollment this summer, all summer we were sitting at 149 or 150 kindergarten students, and we had 6 sections. So that was fairly normal for us, maybe a little bit above average, but fairly normal. And then in school, we had an additional, you know, at one point, an additional 20 students enrolled, 68. But we're sitting there at 28 students per class in kindergarten. You know, we have 160 first grade students. 35 last year. We saw an increase of 14 there. And again, we did not accept any open enrollment in that grade. So, you know, we saw a huge increase, but our smallest class right now, if you don't pay attention to the high school, with the JVS kids being taken out, our smallest class is that second grade class at 149. So my point in talking about this now is, if this winter, as this winter rolls around, we can't wait until the summertime to say we're gonna add a teacher, because we don't have the space unless we kick a music teacher out and put her on a cart, and then teachers will get bumped out of their classroom when there's music class, because the music teacher will have to go in there. We have a preschool classroom over here at the primary school, and we could find another location, I've already, that is right there near the intermediate school, or that we could potentially, in fact, we're setting up a meeting. Yeah, right next to the Presbyterian Church, Green Latchkey, but, you know, they don't have to allow us to, you know, I called the director and they said they have space, and we used to use it at one time, I think, but we could go back and put another preschool classroom there, and then we have the one preschool classroom in the intermediate, that would free up a classroom, you know, so that would be an option. But I look at this, you know, I just think there's a potential. I don't think we're gonna get any smaller. So you're gonna have 168 moving into first grade plus a few move-ins. If our kindergarten comes in at around 160 or 165 or 170 again, I don't know, honestly. It's very tough to continue to do this. I want you to know that we have aides that go into the classrooms at least an hour and a half to an hour and 50 minutes per day. We are hiring another aide. I'll be bringing that to the board. We're hiring another aide through the ESC for 1 year, so every day can be having 28 kindergarten students, but that's for this year. But I think as we get into the winter time and we move into the spring, we're really gonna have to consider, do we look at first grade? Do we look at a kindergarten teacher? One option we have, I don't have any problem saying this, we could do, you know, we can adjust staff as we need to meet the staffing needs of the district. We have 7, but we will be moving 149 students into 3rd grade next year. We can do 6 sections there. We could potentially transfer a 3rd grade teacher down to either K or 1 and only add 1 position. You know, the cost of 1 position.
But wouldn't that depend on who you hire for what position? Because it's gonna depend on licensure. I mean, some people, the licenses now, it's like
Yeah, but
K2 to
a
whatever.
3rd grade teacher, a lot of them, the new ones have pre-K to 3. So if they're already
Okay.
teaching down and do kindergarten or 1st grade. I think the question will be, you know, do we, and if we do that, if we don't hire 2nd grade, and we you know, we've had numbers higher in 2nd grade. Next year it'll be 160. We've had numbers around there. We don't like it, but if money is really tight, we could look at just 1st grade. That'll probably have 170 plus, and we could look at kindergarten to there to put in the order, to get the drawings done, to get the permitting process done, to get the trailers installed in June and July, and then have them ready in August. So again, you're looking at about $17,000 per classroom per year for a 2-year lease, and that includes the monthly lease. You're looking at the installation, the ramps that you need. This included a restroom, but not the utility hookup costs. There would be additional costs there. So
Can I ask a question? Is section, so 3rd grade, there's 7
sections,
sections, is that
teachers.
indicative of classrooms, so each teacher has a classroom?
Each teacher
Right.
has a classroom.
So for a short term, could you put what you just described, one of the Presbyterian, but could you put it over there with the preschool if you moved a teacher down? Does that free up a classroom?
Some other teachers,
A thrilling way to teach.
and I
might
would
add,
not,
Which it is.
and I would be
You get what I'm
concerned.
saying, right? Like you have the space, if you move down, now you have a
Yeah, you open
classroom
a
that's
classroom,
open.
but what I'm saying is we have teachers over there on carts.
So you would move those.
So I
teachers
would
up
be
first.
continuing to keep our teachers on carts while we put a preschool
So
in our
who do
building.
you have on cards?
Mag Hunter's on a cart. you know,
Teaching what?
She's doing all kinds of math and
Also with the licensure question I was trying to ask was, if you hire the right person, couldn't you get somebody who was more than K2? Is that possible these days? Tell me how they've changed licensure around.
yeah, more than K2. They're either pre-K to 3, 4, 9. We still have 1-8 people with a 1-8 license. We're trying to be as economically efficient as possible. You know, I think we could potentially move a 3rd grade teacher into one of the primary grades to help reduce the number of new teachers that we hire. And it may only be for 1 year, because we're gonna, be moving a larger group into 3rd grade the year after that. But we were really hoping to try to get by, and we're just gonna have to monitor this, but we were really, trying to get by until we got to our new building. But with 168 kindergarten students, and the teachers understand that, we got 20 in August, just boom, like that. And even kids, like I just said, we had one enroll yesterday. School's been in, parents just bring them in now, like, oh, my kid should be in school,
Oh, it's after Labor Day funding.
Yeah, so it puts us in a bad situation, because we don't have a room, and we also, even with trailers, we have to buy staff members, so, it's gonna be really hard, because each new staff member with the trailers and furniture is gonna cost us $85,000, not 55. I want the board to be aware of where we are, what we're doing. I've been in the classrooms, I've sat in the classrooms, we have as many aides in place as possible, but that's really not the best solution. If we can reduce class sizes, 28 down to, whatever, like 168 with 7 sections would give us 1 to 24. Let's say we had 165 kindergartners next year with 7 sections, that would give us 1 to 23, 1 teacher for 23. So just some things to think about, but, we're gonna do the best we can, and,
For the modular.
just know that we may have to, we'll have to move on that in summertime. Any opinions? The middle school's an issue. With the 6th grade group down a couple to do the intervention period, and then the teachers all started teaching another section of their core subject area. So instead of teaching 6 sections of science or 6 sections of language arts, they're now teaching, there's only 1 intervention teacher on that team. I would suspect that intervention aide, if that number stays, would follow that class.
That's what I was wondering with the elementary part too, with the K part. Was
Yeah.
If you hire somebody with the right licensure, then they can move.
And these numbers that I'm throwing out, 166 in 8th grade moving into the high school, but we've got a 6 that's gonna move into 5th grade. So the numbers aren't going to change a whole lot in the middle school, but we will have 18. We've actually had less kids move in this summer than the summer before, and we passed the issue in May. Districts at schools and people come in, and I don't know if we can take that approach too often, because we'll never be able a message to our community that we need to improve things. I think it's clear that we needed a new elementary school, whether people move in here or not. But, we saw more resident growth the year before trailers for the last 8, 9, 10 years, because people were coming here despite our facilities. So, we could eliminate open enrollment. That, we lose a lot of funding. We're losing funding every year doing that, but there are 53 kids currently open enrolled in grades 5 through 8. In grade through 7, there are 44 open enrolled kids. But, you do the math real quick, $4,000 of revenue if you eliminate that open enrollment. So,
And you're not eliminating the teacher, or you're not eliminating
Yes.
you're not eliminating any expense
any expense.
with that.
Yeah.
Really, the open enrollment from K to 4 is not that
No,
significant.
no.
So is it really a difference?
I'll comment on the open enrollment in kindergarten. There's 2 kids. One is a staff member's child that is allowed by their parent to work. The other one is it would have either been a grandparent affidavit, the grandparent would have brought their child to school here, or we accepted an open enrollment. So, kindergarten, grade, 2nd grade, most of those are staff members' children, okay? So, you can see 13 open, you know, fourth and fifth still have a little bit, if you look at that band, there's 19 kids right there. Yeah, and then in third and fourth, there's 14, so, you know, I'm not saying that's the answer. Sometimes the open enrollment can cover the cost of a teacher now a little bit, and I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that I do care. I've been out there in the school buildings. We have limitations. We're putting aids in place where we can, and I guess I want to know here from the board, what's your threshold? You know, what's your opinion? What's your number? What
For
concerns you?
students in a class.
For student
Varies
aids, it
upon
says
age.
it's
25.
25 would be better.
Yeah, it varies upon age, you know, but
Do we have class size?
We have,
Yeah.
they can't exceed 30 in K through 5. If it exceeds, we pay $10 per student per day over 27. So 28 would be 10, 29 would be 20.
Only to the teacher.
if they have an aid,
Correct.
now, I will say this, if they have an aid, don't get that extra stipend. Okay, so if they have an instructional aide in their classroom for more than half the day, then they don't get that stipend for being over 27. So when we go to the teachers and we have the conversations, or I talk with the principal who goes to the teachers, and I sit in their classrooms, they'll want smaller class sizes, but then when you offer an aid to them or some solution, they will say, no, I'd rather have the 28 and get paid than have 25 or 26 without getting paid.
You personally, I'd rather have the extra money.
Well, they do. So it goes two ways, okay? So know that when we offer that, sometimes they're like, well, hold on, even though I wanted an extra, I don't want to do.
Less kids than I want.
That's called maybe in the next.
His job right there. This is Daniel Grove, the VCEA president. He's an 8th grade language arts teacher. He's a rest.
Here we go, Phil.
Snap my ankles?
Yes. Wow.
You'll see when I walk out. Feel like I know you.
Daniel and I have had some conversations, but, you know.
You haven't bought him a parachute yet? Okay, that's good.
He knows we're concerned about it. Do you guys have any input?
Well, and I think, so again, the permanent improvement levy helps significantly, I think, from a temporary resource perspective, right? So,
In terms of classroom,
$1,000, because we're only collecting on half the year.
but you wouldn't need it for this fiscal year.
right.
You're gonna need it for the next
For the
fiscal.
next-
Yeah.
So, in theory, that helps relieve and
Yeah.
gives you some, I guess.
It does.
comfort.
I mean, you could definitely
if
say
you
that
will.
insurance costs continue to increase, purchase services continue to increase, so that money, it always gets eaten up somewhere, you know? But yes, we do have permanent improvement money that can be used.
For facilities, I'm
For
not saying for an
facilities.
additional teacher, no,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah, but it allows us to keep some money back in the general fund, you know,
Yes.
for other things. So, again, I mean, children go to school, we start to see 28 kindergartners in a classroom.
And you wonder what kind of ripple effect that's gonna have later on. in
Yes.
Third grade, reading guarantee. and all that.
Yeah, and that's why we went to 7 sections in 3rd grade, and that got kind of messy last year because the teacher retired in the middle of the year, so, and we didn't have a classroom, so we didn't replace that, we just let that, 2nd grade teacher take over for that class, for that 2nd grade teacher that retired in November.
Extra third grade teacher, how's that worked out as far as the testing goes?
Well, class sizes.
Better, not better?
Yeah, I mean, class sizes right now are 23 per class, which is for 3rd grade definitely manageable.
What about the testing itself?
You know, every year we have a couple that are being held back. We've had about 2 every year. You know, and that's a tough situation with that. But we offer a lot of opportunities and a lot of intervention and summer services to help those kids reach those scores. About the enrollment or trailers or anything. The last thing I wanted to talk about on the school calendar, the process.
Do you have a copy, Mr. Rose? What was that?
Yeah, in fact, we've had conversations
Okay, I'll
before,
move
just so you know, if you're new to the board, kind of the process. The board or myself will, but the association, we
Bring a
provide-
pass back.
we provide the association with dates, for the upcoming school calendar. I have to do that by November 1st. I really don't want to wait till November 1st, so Daniel and I started talking about that a little early. He works with the teachers, I work with him, and also the school board. You will have to approve the calendar, and before we actually approve the calendar, there has to be a 30-day, you have to do like a public notice for a hearing on the calendar. So my goal right now is to have a hearing October 15th, just give anybody a chance to comment on the school calendar, and then adopt it at the December board meeting. But in your packet, I think it provided some different options of school calendars for you. And I met with Daniel about these, but I want to let you know what kind of limits us. Obviously, our teacher contracts are for 185 days a year, okay? And that's how our teachers are paid, 7.5 hours a day, 185 days a year. So there's a lot of different scenarios, but what 3 work days? There's a work day that's included at the semester, but then you have to have a work day to allow them to get ready at the beginning. You have a work day at the end of the year, so you end up having 3 work days in that calendar year, or in that contract.
Workday meaning no meetings whatsoever.
Yeah,
But
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Just
Just
during
so-
their classroom, we can't schedule, administration cannot schedule meetings, staff meetings, anything, professional development. Then we also have conferences in the fall and 2 evenings in the spring. So they get 2 comp days.
Together equal 2 days.
yes.
Yes, yep, so that's two days right there. So that basically leaves us, 100 and, that takes up 5 days. So the work days and the comp days takes up 5, so that leaves us 180 days to work with. Now, where we're flexible is how many student days we have and how many professional development days we have. We have gone back in and added some PD days for this school year because we were implementing that we needed in state mandated trainings that we needed to make sure we had days available. But one of the biggest complaints we're getting from parents is, my goodness, school is starting way too early. It's just getting to be way too early. And I personally agree with this. The association seems to agree with it as well. We don't want to go from one extreme to the other, but I think if we don't address our start date and we continue to keep rubber stamping and doing what we've been doing every year, in the next 2 years, we're going to be bringing new staff back on a Friday, and kids will be starting on the 12th of August in the next couple of years.
Pretty early.
So we need to look at trying to make some adjustments. Option later, and it still has the 5 PD days built in for the October fair break, the 10th and 11th. It's a 2-day break for the fair, which is what we used to do about 5-6 years ago. We went to 3 days, and then it still gets us out after Memorial Day. Basically, you would have a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The teachers have asked, especially at the elementary level, they've asked for a 2-hour early release. I have no problem with that. I mean, it is a holding tank, basically. There's not a whole lot you can do on the last day of school with little kids. They have their P's or end of year stuff, but when you're holding them till 3:30, it's really difficult.
So where did the fair day go? So if you had 3 days.
It helps to get us out a little bit earlier, but we've always had 3 work days and 2 comp days. I think this year we have 175 student days and 5 PD days.
Yes, we did.
Because I'm curious though, how many students do we have that are typically out for the fair? Because I know,
Well,
I can think of 2 in my household, soon to be 3.
Yeah.
Out
It's first of all,
the
it's an excused out. We have our FFA kids in the ag program that do miss. We have some kids in Clover Buds and 4-H. We're seeing less and less as the years go on. I talked to the other superintendents at Fairfield Union, Mandy Clear Creek. They have 200 plus kids in their high schools that are actually participating. Many of their teachers are participating in the fair as well. So, those places, I guess what I kind of want to get to is you can look at option 2 as well. There's 176 student days and 4 PD days. It still has the same start date in terms of student start date and staff start date, and still the same end date. Again, it's just about a week later than what we're doing right now. Option 3 is real schedule. That has the 3 days for the fair. It starts staff on August 9th, and then they come back on the 12th. Our administration felt we didn't have enough time to do professional development at the beginning of the year with anything that was new and the staff meeting, because typically what happens if you look at option 3, on what would be August the 12th, CEA meeting time, You gotta allow lunchtime. We've got staff meetings in there, staff meetings, and the principals just said it just wasn't enough time. And then the teacher workday, you can't schedule meetings, and if, teachers have one day to get ready, and then the students start on August 14th, which still gets us out before Memorial Day. Some people like that. It bumps up graduation as well. But again, this one, option 3 would be 175 student days, 5 PD days, and then the 3 work days and 2 comp days. This is just getting early. Option 4 really bumps it back. Kind of late. Pull the calendar here. August 18. This would basically be the last week of August. It would be a Monday new teacher orientation, Tuesday PD day, work day on a Wednesday 29th, and then they would turn around and have a 3-day weekend with Labor Day. You can see it gets for students, and then the teacher work day would be.
Are we looking at option 5 or which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at option 4.
Oh, you're looking at
Yeah.
option 5.
Yeah. So, but not 5. The teachers like this one. That's important in this process. It's in the teacher PD day on Tuesday, teacher workday Wednesday. Students start on the 22nd, which is a Thursday. So they go Thursday, Friday, and then have a 5-day week after Labor Day. It's only got 2 fair days.
Are 2 fair days enough?
Yeah, I do. January 3rd, so you come back to school on, we had some on 3rd, which would be a Thursday, Friday, and nobody really liked that. And then this gets you out on the kids out on the 28th after, it would be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they'd come to school, and then there would be a teacher workday on Friday, the 29th. It has 177 student days, 3 PD days, days. It sounds like this is something that we would really want to take back to the union, have any questions addressed, and then actually bring this calendar to the board, and then a vote. It's kind of a compromise in terms of teachers would start on Friday the 16th. The new teachers would. On the 19th, we would have a teacher PD day. That would be our breakfast in the morning, the BCEA meetings, the staff meetings that would allow more time for staff meetings in the afternoon. And then it would add a PD day, another PD day at the beginning of the year. So the next day we could do a full day of professional development with our teachers. Then they have a work day. And then we would start on Thursday the 22nd. So again, it's been doing with that Wednesday the week before. It has 2 fair days. We've come back to school. It provides the PD kind of front load where we really need to put our PD in place rather than the end of the year to do some of the professional development. And it still gets our kids out right after Memorial. It's kind of a day. Would be exams at the high school. We would still do a 2-hour early release. My conversations with Daniel, this was something that basically all we traded out compared to option 5. Between option 5 and 6 was we reduced the student day and added another PD day because we just felt we didn't have enough time with the staff. So,
Are you saying option 6?
according to Daniel and I, of course, I got to check with the board, and he has to check with the union. Then, you guys have to provide me any feedback that if I need to go back and talk to Daniel, what would you like to see? And he's got to talk to the association, and then I bring it to the board. So
So,
I
just
think
out of,
option 6 would be a good compromise.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be bumped back.
I do
To the
too.
22nd,
I do.
around there's 2.
too late.
Too late, yes.
The way the weather's been, get out before Memorial Day, it's still kind of cool, wet, rainy. It has been the last few summers, but I'd rather start a little bit later in August. And I'm fine, with kids starting on the 22nd. That is the 3rd week of August, and we still get out 3 days after Memorial Day
That's not bad.
with the 2-hour early dismissal, and we don't have to come back too early after break. So we also get the PD time we need. Good solution, to be honest with you.
So being the old POD teacher I used to be, so what PD are you?
PA is a staff meeting. There's not always professional development
Okay.
embedded in it, but we don't have it. We do have some related arts in special areas that will have some purchase options in the budget. But in terms of we've got these state mandated trainings we have to do. There's new special education forms that we're trying to squeeze in, there's to be done there, and with co-teaching in the district, so, I don't think we need the 5 days, and I think this, adding an extra student day, going from 175 up to 176, and reducing one PD day is not going to hurt us either way.
So, like option 6, is it? Professional development days, do that, one of those on the fair day where the students would be.
Yeah, we talked about that, but what would happen, what I fear would happen is, let's say we did a Wednesday PD day, so the kids weren't here, but the staff had to be here. Mass rush might be, I hope it wouldn't happen, but if somebody put in for a sick day and not sick, it would be a mass rush. People would be trying to submit that, personal day
Yeah.
as soon as possible. It would be a fight in every building,
I like option 6, sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Bumps the
Especially if
bumps the
there's
back.
excuse for some students.
But Lancaster, there's other places that we, a couple days for the fair, so we used to do, there's people that have booked.
Yeah,
so-
you're right.
Yeah, you don't wanna do that, so.
I
That's
mean,
it.
is that gonna change? I
What?
guess if you go to 2 fair days, I mean, does that change? You're still gonna ask for 3 days off, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I mean?
it's-
So I don't know that it changes. You're saying from a professional development day, you believe people would not show up for professional development.
It has another opportunity, it's a good time to take a trip, put in for a personal day.
Eat some more junk food at the fair.
I think that will be the only thing you hear anything about community-wide.
We'll have that hearing, I guess have something posted on our
30 days, yeah.
website, 30 days for comment as well, and then, again,
That's what I was wondering.
My only thought with the fair, when we talk about it, is that when I first started here, and I've only been here 5 years, we had it at 2 days, we changed it to 3 days, now we're going back to 2 days, correct? So it's, I think that you're gonna get into that issue too, where, if somebody gets caught taking a sick day and they're not sick, then it becomes, and that's an investment. District doesn't probably wanna get into either. But I think I think the changes that Sean and I talked about, I don't see a problem with the union. This was a clear,
heavy favorite, you said.
heavy.
Option 6.
Well, option 5 and 6 is almost identical. We'll be okay with the changes.
So, I think that's all I have at this point, so. Mark, you wanna keep moving down the agenda?
Yes, going to adjourn. Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
yes.
Mr. Mellis?
Yes. Ta-da.